the Attorney General touts the Swift Justice Program, the Bar Association finally has someplace to call home, and the nation's youth take over the UN. Details on the other side of the break.
This is Lloyd and Lisa Jones. They have a beautiful home, everything in its place. This is their immaculate yard. Everyone can see that they believe in clean, green, and pristine. Everyone but the man upstairs.
Still littering?
Yes, sir. 7 offense for the year.
Oh, what a shame.
Keep the whole Bahamas clean, green, and pristine, not just your property, because he knows your dirty little secret.
Welcome to Your Government in Action. I'm your host, Joy Roger.
For tonight's episode, we join you from the Crown Ballroom of the Atlantis Resort, where the 16th Annual Model United Nations Sessions, commonly referred to as the MUNS, were recently held. Model United Nations is a simulation of the United Nations within an academic platform. The objective is to educate and train the student participants in manners relating to civics, issues of globalization, communication, and diplomacy. We will hear more from the MUNS session later on in the show. Turning now to news from the Office of the Attorney General.
Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, the Honorable Allison Maynard Gibson, touted the success of the Swift Justice Program recently as it relates to the increase in the conviction rate. She made the announcement during a press conference at the Office of the Attorney General and the Ministry of Legal Affairs. The Swift Justice team comprises of the Office of the Attorney General, prosecutors, the Royal Bahamas Police Force, Social Services, the Public Hospitals Authority, Her Majesty's Prisons, and other relevant agencies. Swift Justice was reinstated in May 2012, and then it underwent a reconstruction process in October 2012 in an attempt to reduce or clear the considerable backlog of cases. The objective of the program is to better focus and better coordinate the efforts of the many agencies involved in the administration of justice. The Attorney General believes that the improvement in the conviction rate is a true indication that the program is definitely working.
This graph demonstrates the effectiveness of swift justice between May and December. When we came back in May, when I became the Attorney General in May, the Minister and I agreed, based upon the mandate of the Prime Minister, that we would re-implement swift justice. And you will see that between May and December, we were able to achieve a 42% conviction rate, and also with 5 judges, we heard 69 matters. In October, we augmented swift justice. We won't go into the details, but what has happened is that we are working even more closely as stakeholders. And you will see that the result of that between January to date, and this was presented in the Senate a few weeks ago, so this is until March, we were able to move from a 42% conviction rate to a 61% conviction rate. So we're moving in the right direction. We are also moving in the right direction in disposing of matters before the courts. You will see that in less than 12 weeks, we were able to dispose of 23 matters with the same 5 judges. We can project that if we continue on that course, that by the end of the year, we will easily dispose of at least 200 matters, and that is our target. Okay, we hope to be able to demonstrate equally as graphically every month that the project is working, that stakeholders working together so that matters are not being adjourned, that things that can be avoided like key witnesses not turning up are in fact avoided, and that people understand that, as we say, you will be caught, you will be tried, and you will be prosecuted.
Also speaking at the press conference were several stakeholders from the agencies directly involved with the program.
I'd like to say that the vision that has been set forth by the Honorable Attorney General, that we have fully embraced it. The vision of the Attorney General is to make the justice system in the Bahamas effective. And like she sometimes say, if we want to have the most effective justice system, not in the Bahamas, but in the entire region. And so, on behalf of the police, we have come on board. We have the assistance of our forensic team and the assistance of the prosecutions department from the police side. We have been doing an effective job. All of us here are links into a chain. And we know that if a link is damaged or broken, then the chain is not effective. It becomes ineffective. So each of us, by continuously playing our part and doing what it is required of us, we've made the justice system to be an effective one.
The Public Hospitals Authority expects and mandates that all prosecutors requiring any health reports that are to be exhibited as evidence in court, that they place their requests to the Public Hospitals Authority 3 weeks in advance. Not one day, not 1 hour, not 2 hours before they are required to go to court. They must put their requests to us 3 weeks in advance. The public appreciates, and we all appreciate around the table, that our healthcare team are very busy persons. Our doctors and our nurses are very, very busy. When a request is made for a pathology report, it takes time for Dr. Karen Stans and her team to examine the body and to place their report in writing. When a medical report is required, again, we have to retrieve the medical records. We know that our system is very antiquated. Our medical records may be stored off of the compound. The medical records officer has to find that medical record, has to send it over to the physician, who will review the report and then place the report in writing. There are also requests for psychiatric evaluation, and the psychiatric evaluation takes place at the Sandilands Rehabilitation Center or the Community Assessment Center on Market Street. Again, time has to be scheduled for the accused or the victim to go in and have an assessment. We also coordinate the services of the Grand Bahama Health Services so that when requests are made, again, the 3-week window is very, very important. So we're able to communicate with them and to get the reports to them in a timely fashion. What the Public Hospitals Authority does every Wednesday is to ask the prosecutors to complete a form. We've designed a form. And the form includes the name of the accused or the victim. We ask them to give us the date of birth, the date of the incident. If they're able to give us the medical record number, sometimes they have that, they can give that to us as well. This report then is reproduced and sent to our medical chief of staff in each of the 3 health facilities for them to complete their reports. We know that many cases turn based on the health reports, and so our physicians, our nursing staff, and our medical records personnel appreciate the fact that the reports have to be submitted in a timely fashion.
I am sure the early indicators of results is welcome news for all practitioners in the administration of justice. More from your government in action when we return.
The Department of Environmental Health wants you to know that only certain food vendors are fully licensed by the department to sell food. All licensed food vendors must be equipped with the following amenities: running water and the capacity to heat and cool food properly, which prevents spoilage. These enterprises include hot dog carts and fully mobile vans. Be careful with your health and buy your food from licensed vendors only. This message has been brought to you by the Department of Environmental Health.
Welcome back. Members of the Bar Association have something to celebrate as they can finally say that they have a home of their own. Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Perry Gladstone Christie, recently addressed the ceremony to mark the official opening of the Bahamas Bar Association's new office complex on Mackey Street.
We are here to mark an important milestone in the life of the Bahamas Bar Association. Securing and owning its very own building has long been a dream of the association. And in fulfilling that dream on this particular site, you really could not have done better. The late Sir Kendall Isaacs QC, after whom the council room here is named, as has been acknowledged, was the first president of the Bahamas Bar Association. And as fate would also have it, a former resident of this building as well. Indeed, the Isaacs North family connection runs even deeper in the terra firma upon which we stand today. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it has been suggested that the Bahamas has more lawyers per capita than any other country in the world. Whether this be statistically correct or not, there is no denying that the profession has grown by leaps and bounds, and that it continues to do so. Most impressive of all in this regard is the enormous growth that has taken place in the number of women admitted to the bar in the modern era. I am advised that the women may even now account for the majority at the bar, or if not, it is certainly nearing that mark. This is especially remarkable when one considers that the first female member of the bar, the late Patricia Coetzee, and I'm old enough to remember her, was admitted in 1953, just 60 years ago, and that the second female lawyer, Eileen Depuch Caron, was called 9 years after that in 1962, and that the third female lawyer, Jeannie Thompson, was called 3 years after that in 1965. Indeed, it is my hope that the day is not too far off when gender inequality in our country, whether under our Constitution or otherwise, will be a thing of the past. There can be no moral, philosophical, judicial, or other justification for gender bias or gender inequality in a modern, enlightened society such as we hold ourselves out to be. Before I take my seat, I should like to leave you with these challenges, which I hope you will agree are worthy of your active attention as you seek to make the Bar Association more responsive to the demands of its position of influence in our nation. 1. Firstly, improvements in the disciplinary machinery of the bar needs to be effected so that lawyers who fail to adhere to the standards of integrity required of members of the bar are dealt with, and dealt with severely. The offenders in this regard constitute a very small minority of lawyers, but they give us all a bad name. Indeed, they do major damage to public confidence in the integrity of the profession. The enforcement of ethical standards must therefore remain a matter of the highest priority. Secondly, continuing legal education should become mandatory. My government stands at the ready to introduce whatever amendments to the Legal Profession Act that may be necessary to make this a reality. Lawyers need to stay current with the ever-evolving jurisprudence of our country. Continuing education is the best way of ensuring that they do. Thirdly, lawyers of 5 years standing or more should, in my considered opinion, undertake to do no less than 18 hours of pro bono or free legal work on an annual basis. This is just 1.5 hours a month. But what a difference it can make in the lives of ordinary people who simply cannot afford to pay for a lawyer. Fourthly, Queen's Counsel should undertake to act as leading counsel in pro bono cases within their areas of specialization at least twice a year. I'm gratified to learn that based on the initiatives of the Chief Justice and President of the Court of Appeal, some system of pro bono work by the inner bar may already be under active consideration. Fifthly and finally, I would encourage the Bar Association to establish a public education arm dedicated to the education of the public in general and young Bahamians in particular about the Constitution and about civics generally.
Also on hand and bringing remarks was Attorney General Allison Maynard Gibson.
It's an important day in the Bahamas' history and the Bar Association's history. Today, the Bar Association is opening its own building during the 40th year of our country's independence and in a place that is easily accessible to the people that we have the privilege to serve. We've come a long way from the days in the Baypal building and other buildings. As secretary of the bar, I remember meetings there and the challenges that we faced. Owning our own building was a faraway dream. Today, as Attorney General and leader of the bar, I will sit for council meetings in the Kendall Isaacs room in our own building. Kendall Isaacs, after whom the council room is named, was the first president of the Bar Association. He was called to the bar on July 5th, 1950. We were told that there are over 1,100 members of the bar. He was number 33 on the list, and interestingly, a former resident of this building. Mr. William McPherson Peter Christie, another honoree, was called to the bar in 1951. And Godfrey Kelly, another honoree, was called to the bar in 1953. The honorees and the Prime Minister share several qualities. Some of them are, they all understood the responsibility and privilege of being members of this ancient, honorable, and distinguished profession. Clients and the profession benefited from their focus on proper preparation, their indefatigable work ethic, and their oratorical skills. And I want to underline that because although we know of our Prime Minister's oratorical skills because he is Prime Minister and has been so prominent in politics, the other honorees also, the Honorable Kendall Isaacs and Mr. Christie and Mr. Kelly, just speak with them and you will ascertain their oratorical skills as well. They were all committed to and supported the Bar Association's role in promoting the rule of law. They all gave public service in many areas other than the practice of law, and interestingly, they all served in the political arena. And they were all successful lawyers by whatever yardstick is used to measure success.
And our final story for this evening is the MUNS, or the Models United Nations Sessions.
The MUNS, held here on Paradise Island, was the 16th annual session to be put on by a collaborative effort between the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Rotary Clubs of the Bahamas. Simulations may be facilitated in various settings, from single classroom to nationwide conferences, where schools participate as model UN delegates and students take on the role of diplomats of the representative countries in which they are assigned. Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Fred Mitchell, brought remarks to officially open the afternoon session of the simulation. He told the participating students that they are all heirs to a proud heritage of scholarship and research, and that this simulation showcase provides them with the unique opportunity to gain competence in the important areas of civics, globalization, communications, and diplomacy.
On two times at this podium this afternoon, speakers have spoken to use students about being the future leaders of our country. And I recall in this connection, I used to be a lecturer at the College of the Bahamas, which is about, I believe you're all seniors, so you're perhaps a year away from the College of the Bahamas, or just a couple of months away from the College of the Bahamas. And I did a politics and government class there in the spring of 1988. There are two students who were students in that class. One was a man named Reynard Rigby, and the other is Michael Halkitis. And 12 years after that class in 1988, Michael Halkitis was an elected member of Parliament and a parliamentary secretary in the Ministry of Finance. And in Reynard Rigby's case, 13 years later, he became the chairman of the then governing party. I say that because the time is really quite short. You may think it's a long way away, but it's very short, and this is a useful exercise for you to learn and to think about the things you would want to do if you ever get the opportunity to involve yourselves in public policy. During a meeting I had just on Sunday, the president of the 67th session of the United Nations General Assembly, who's actually a former foreign minister of Serbia, was visiting the Bahamas on a private visit. And he told me that the priority, there's going to be a thematic debate taking place on the 16th of May, and that debate is going to be on climate change in the UN General Assembly, in conjunction with some major international civic entities, such as the UAE Special Agency for the Environment and Columbia University, and they will be devoting dedicated meetings to this issue. The importance of the General Assembly dealing with this issue is that it is now being taken from the specialized, restricted multilateral treaty discussions to full global world attention. And I think it's particularly important for you as Bahamian students, because one of the things I noticed about this whole climate change issue is in the international discussions, people in the Caribbean region, of which we are a part, don't seem to take this as a very serious issue. In the Pacific Islands, they do. When you think that in the Bahamas, 80% of our landmass, or thereabouts, are just about 5 feet above sea level, you realize the scale of the potential problem if there's a shift in the level of the sea. And that is what we're looking at. So we need to engage the Bahamian population more in a discussion about this issue. And so I'm grateful to you for engaging us in this debate on this topic. Now, the second topic is the UN scale of assessment. And of course, every Minister of Finance of the Bahamas would like us to solve that problem. It derives its import from the fact that the ministry, as the keeper of the technical and substantive aspects of MUNS, would want students to experience the complexity of global challenges, the behind-the-scenes tensions which one does not usually get to appreciate, in understanding why issues are solved or remain unresolved, understanding the complexity which underlies international diplomacy and decision-making, is analogous to the mindset and skills which differentiate the consumer and producer, the copier and the creator, the politician and the statesman. You therefore appreciate our lofty aspirations for MUNS Bahamas this year.
MUNS is a competition, and days leading up to the event, all teams must do their research with the aim to critically understanding the logic and the position of the country assigned to them. Preparation is key to how effective the participants are able to deliberate, negotiate, and present their views on issues. Particular areas may encompass, but are not limited to, human rights, conflict resolution, sustained economic development, and issues pertaining to the family, particularly women and children. When it was all said and done, the top 3 schools in the competition were announced. At stake, among other prizes, was a trip to the real United Nations for the winning team. The breakdown of winners was as follows. In third place, Central Eleuthera High, representing Trinidad and Tobago. In second place, Lucaya International School in Grand Bahama, representing the Bahamas. And in first place, St. John's College, representing Canada. Following the announcement of the winners, we spoke with the Honorable Fred Mitchell, and Mr. Carlos Smith, chairman of the Rotary MUNS Committee. They both weighed in on why it was so important to support the schools and the students participating in the simulation.
Well, in so many ways, we are preparing our country to be handed off to the next generation of people. These people will pretty soon be in university and pretty soon join the workforce, and they're actually the leadership group. So as much experience that they can get in looking at real-world problems and engaging in real-world problems, the better. And this is a good training exercise for that, to see how the world actually interrelates. The UN is a wonderful place for that experience of how to compromise and how to negotiate and how to move forward. And I think that every ministry really ought to be supporting young people in that role. I remember myself when I did the first of the addresses at the UN, and I walked out onto the podium, that famous green podium which exists at the UN headquarters. And as I stepped out and I looked across the sea of faces looking at me on this world stage, I said to myself, this is why they made me go into those speech contests at St. Augustine's with Toastmasters, because now I'm totally prepared for it and I know exactly what to do. So I think it's useful.
Rotary Clubs of the Bahamas has been involved with the Model United Nations program some 16 years. And this stems back from the relationship between Rotary International and the UN when it was first started. The relationship extends to with the awareness that we need to promote peace. At the same time, there are issues, global issues within countries that we need to deal with, such as health, economic issues, social justice. And for the past 16 years, we've collaborated with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to establish a program in the Bahamas that assists students in becoming aware of these issues, how to engage in these issues. As you know, MUNS is an academic simulation of the United Nations, which started back when you had the League of Nations. And this program assists in not just educating, but training the participating students on civic issues, global issues, economic issues around the world.
With all that these young people could be doing, it's great to see them focus on working towards becoming true world leaders. That is all for this week. Join us in our next edition of Your Government in Action as we continue to follow what this administration is doing to develop a more prosperous Bahamas.